I believed what everyone told me about being alone, that it was sad, that it was unhealthy, that something was wrong with me. And I didn't just hear them. I listened, really listened. So at 73, I opened my door. Not casually, not halfway. I opened it for real. I let someone into my life because I honestly thought they were right. I was 78 when I finally understood how wrong that was. According to the actuaries, the statisticians, and the little pamphlets my doctor hands me with that gentle, sympathetic smile, I'm in the final chapter now. And nearly every time I meet someone new, or worse, when I run into an old acquaintance in the grocery store, squeezing avocados like it's a serious life decision, they ask the same thing. Always softly, always like they're afraid of hurting me. "Arthur, don't you want a partner? Arthur, isn't that big house awfully quiet for just one person? Wouldn't it be nice to have someone to share your morning coffee with?" I get why they ask. From the day we're born, we're taught that being alone is something to fix. Movies tell us, songs tell us, even our mothers tell us. Life, they say, only works in pairs, two halves, one whole. So 5 years ago, and yes, I remember the exact week, I believed them. I didn't hesitate. I didn't overthink it. I opened my door and I let someone in. And I am going to tell you the truth that nobody wants to admit at dinner parties because it sounds selfish or cold or just plain sad. I have never been more exhausted, more anxious, and more spiritually drained than I was when I was in a relationship. I was miserable. And the worst part? Everyone told me I should be the happiest man alive. The before time let me back up a bit. You need to understand the baseline. My wife, Eleanor, passed away when I was 68. It wasn't sudden. It was cancer, ovarian, stage 4 by the time we found it. It was a long, grueling 2 years of hospitals, chemotherapy lounges that smelled of antiseptic and fear, and hospice nurses who spoke in hushed tones. It was 2 years of watching the woman I had loved since 1965 slowly fade into a shadow. When she finally let go, on a Tuesday morning while it was raining, the silence in the house was deafening. It wasn't just quiet, it was heavy. It had mass. It pressed against my eardrums. For the first year, I was a ghost in my own home. I sat in her chair because it still smelled faintly of her perfume. I watched television without turning it on, staring at the black screen. I forgot to eat. I felt like half a person, an amputee walking around on a phantom limb. But then, Tandawatangas. It didn't heal the wound, but its scar tissue formed. The sharp edges built. I started to find a routine. I am a retired structural engineer, so I like systems. I like order. I set up a proper wood shop in the garage, something I had talked about doing for 20 years but never had the time for. I bought a lathe, a table saw, chisels made of good Japanese steel. I started waking up at 5:30 in the morning, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I would make a pot of strong, black coffee, sit on the back porch, and watch the sun come up over the old oak trees in the yard. No talking, no news radio, no demands, just the birds and the steam rising from my cup. It became my sanctuary, it became my church. I started building furniture, I built a bookshelf for my granddaughter. I fixed the squeaky step on the stairs that had annoyed Eleanor for a decade. Sorry, Elle. I read books on the Roman Empire and the history of salt, books I'd meant to read since I was 40. By the time I turned 72, I realized something surprising, something scandalous. I was content. I wasn't jumping for joy. I wasn't throwing parties. But I was steady. My blood pressure was down. My mind was clear. I had peace. The intervention. But the world does not like to see an old man alone. It makes people nervous. It reminds them of their own mortality, their own fear of solitude. My daughter, Sarah, is a wonderful woman. She loves me fiercely, but she is a fixer. She cannot stand a problem that remains unsolved, and she decided I was a problem. She would come over for Sunday dinner, look at my solitary place setting, and get that look in her eyes. "Dad?" she would say, cutting her roast beef with aggressive precision. "You are isolating yourself. Humans are social creatures. You are going to wither away in this garage talking to pieces of wood." Then came the neighbor, Mrs. Higgins. A well-meaning woman with a terrifying amount of floral print in her wardrobe. She cornered me while I was getting the mail. "Arthur," she beamed, "I have the perfect person for you. Her name is Sylvia. She's 70. Retired nurse, lively, drives a red convertible, she plays bridge. You have to meet her. You two would be perfect. And you know, when enough people tell you that you are incomplete, you start to believe them. You start to doubt your own reality. You look at your quiet life and think, maybe I am doing this wrong. Maybe this peace isn't peace. Maybe it's just stagnation. Maybe I'm just waiting to die. So I agreed. I said yes to the coffee date. The honeymoon phase 1 met Sylvia at a little cafe downtown. I wore my good slacks. I trimmed my beard. And I will be honest with you, it was nice. Sylvia was indeed lively. She had a laugh that could fill a room. A big, throaty laugh. She asked me about my woodworking. She complimented my shirt. Blue brings out your eyes, she said. She told stories about her time in the ER that were funny and tragic all at once. For the first time in 5 years, I felt seen. Not as a grandfather, not as a widower, but as a man. A man with a history and a face. We went on a second date, then a third. By the 4th month, we were, as the young people say, an item. Everyone was thrilled. My daughter was relieved. She stopped lecturing me about isolation. Mrs. Higgins gave me the thumbs up every time I drove past her house. Even the guys at the hardware store seemed to nod with approval. Arthur's got a girlfriend. Good for him. Still in the game. And in the beginning, it was good. We wanted the theater. We tried new Italian restaurants where the menu was in a language I didn't speak. I put on cologne. It felt like I was living a second youth, a bonus round. The intrusion. But then, the reality of merging two lives. At 73 years old began to set in. It wasn't the big, dramatic things. It wasn't a clash of values or a dark secret. It was the 1,000 little things. The death by 1,000 cuts. It started with the phone. Before Sylvia, my phone was a tool. It was a black rectangle that sat on the kitchen counter. I used it to call the plumber, check the weather forecast, or call my daughter once a week. That was it. With Sylvia, the phone became a leash. She loved to text. She texted like a teenager. Good morning. What are you doing? Thinking of you. Look at this picture of my cat Muffin. Did you see the news? If I did not reply within 20 minutes, she would call. Her voice would be tight. Is everything okay? You didn't answer. I was worried you fell. I found myself carrying the phone in my pocket at all times, even when I was in the workshop. I would be in the middle of turning a beautiful piece of cherry wood on the lathe, completely in the flow, the world falling away, just me and the grain. And then buzz, buzz, buzz. The interruption would snap me out of my focus like a rubber band. My shoulders would tighten. I started to feel a low-level anxiety, a constant vigilance. I was checking the device constantly. I was no longer the master of my own time. I was on call. The energy deficit. Then there was the energy deficit. This is something people in their 40s or 50s might not fully grasp yet. When you are 73, your energy is a finite resource. It is like a battery that does not hold a charge as well as it used to. You wake up with 100%. But simple things, grocery shopping, cleaning the gutters, drain it faster. I cherished my afternoons. After lunch, I liked to sit in my leather armchair, read a chapter of the book, and maybe close my eyes for 20 minutes. It wasn't laziness. It was how I reset. It was how I gathered myself for the evening. Sylvia did not operate that way. She had a nervous, frantic energy. She was running away from something, maybe her own age, maybe silence. She wanted to go to the outlet mall on Tuesdays. She wanted to drive an hour to see a botanical garden on Thursdays. She wanted to host dinner parties on Saturdays for friends I didn't know. I would come home from these excursions completely depleted. My knees would ache. My brain would feel like fog. My social battery was dead. I would tell her, Sylvia, I need to rest today. I'm staying in. And she would look at me with this hurt, disappointed expression. The kind you give a child who won't eat their vegetables. She would say, Oh, Arthur, we are burning daylight. We don't have that much time left. We should be living. She made me feel guilty for being old. She made me feel guilty for wanting stillness. I found myself saying yes to things I hated. Antique shows, wine tastings where the wine gave me heartburn, just to avoid the conversation about how I was being boring. I was performing happiness while my internal battery was flashing red. The financial taboo. Let's talk about the finances. This is the taboo subject, the one nobody mentions in the romance novels. I worked hard for 40 years as an engineer. I saved. I have a pension and my social security, but I live on a fixed income. I have a budget. I know exactly how much I can spend to ensure I never become a burden to my children. I want to leave something for them. My life before Sylvia was inexpensive. I cooked at home. I drank tap water. I bought tools occasionally. I drove a 10-year-old truck. Dating at 73 is expensive. Sylvia liked to eat out 3 times a week. $50 here, $80 there. She liked the theater. Tickets are not cheap. She liked weekend trips to bed and breakfasts in the country. $150 a night, plus gas, plus meals, plus little souvenirs. After 6 months, I looked at my bank account and I felt a cold spike of fear. I was dipping into my savings. I was spending the principal. I was spending money that was meant for my potential long-term care, for a new roof, for my grandkids' college funds. I tried to bring it up. I was gentle. I said, "Sylvia, we need to scale back. Can we just cook dinner here tonight? Maybe watch a movie." She laughed, a dismissive little sound. "Oh, Arthur, you can't take it with you. Stop being a miser. Live a little." But it wasn't about being a miser. It was about security. It was about the fact that I cannot go out and get another job at 73. This money is all there is. Once it's gone, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. I lay awake at night doing mental math, calculating inflation, worrying about the cost of assisted living if I ever needed it. The peace I had built, the financial serenity, was being eaten away by anxiety. The invasion of space. The breaking point came 8 months into the relationship. It was July, hot, humid, sticky. Sylvia had effectively moved in on the weekends, and she had decided my house needed help. "It's so drab, Arthur," she said, looking around my living room. "It's a bachelor pad. My leather armchair, the one I had sat in for 15 years, the one that molded perfectly to my back, the one where I had read 1,000 books, was an eyesore." She bought throw pillows, bright yellow ones. She moved my books to different shelves because they looked better by color. She put scented candles on every surface. My house started to smell like vanilla bean and fresh linen. It didn't smell like wood and old paper anymore. It didn't smell like Eleanor. It didn't smell like me. One Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen to make my coffee. It was 6 a.m. Usually, this is my sacred time, the quietest hour. Sylvia was already up. She was clattering dishes in the sink. She had the news on the radio at full volume. The weatherman was shouting about a heat wave. She turned to me, beaming. "Good morning. I was thinking about my niece's wedding in October. We need to book the flights now or the prices will go up, and you need a new suit. That gray one is too old-fashioned, and maybe we should rent a car." She was talking at me before I had even taken a sip of coffee. She was filling the space with noise, with plans, with demands, with logistics. I stood there holding my empty mug. I looked around my kitchen. The counters were cluttered with her things, her vitamins, her purse, her magazines. The air was thick with the smell of her perfume, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. I felt crowded. I felt suffocated. I felt a physical tightness in my chest that wasn't a heart attack. It was the desperate urge to flee. I realized then with crystal clarity, in my effort not to be lonely, I had completely abandoned myself. I was living someone else's life. I was living on someone else's schedule. I was spending money I wasn't comfortable spending. I was performing the role of partner for a woman who didn't actually like who I was. She liked the idea of me. She liked having a companion. She liked having a man to drive her places and sit across from her at dinner. But she didn't like my silence. She didn't respect my need for solitude. She wanted to fill me up with her noise because she couldn't stand her own. The break, I ended it 2 days later. It was not easy. There were tears. She told me I was making a massive mistake. She told me I was emotionally stunted. She told me I was going to die alone and bitter, and that nobody would find my body for weeks. That was a nice touch. My daughter was disappointed. She sighed and said, "Dad, she was trying so hard. You have to compromise." But the moment Sylvia drove her red car out of my driveway for the last time, I walked back into my house. I locked the door. I turned off the radio. I took the yellow pillows off the couch and put them in the closet. I opened the windows to let the vanilla scent out, and then I sat in my old, cracked leather chair. The silence washed over me like a warm bath. It wrapped around me. It settled into my bones. It was the most beautiful, luxurious feeling I have ever experienced. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in 8 months, my lungs filled completely. The aftermath, a manifesto for solitude. That was 5 years ago. I am 78 now. I have not been on a date since. I have no intention of ever doing it again. I have retired from the business of romance. And I want to tell you what I have learned, because if you are 60 or 65 or 70, people are lying to you about what happiness looks like. They are selling you a version of happiness that is designed for 30-year-olds. Lesson 1: Loneliness versus solitude. You have to understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. They are not the same thing. They are opposites. Loneliness is a feeling of lack. It is a pain. It is the feeling that something is missing. Solitude is a state of being. It is a glory. It is the feeling of being whole. When I was with Sylvia, I was never alone. But I was incredibly lonely because I could not hear my own thoughts. I was disconnected from myself. Now I am alone almost all day. But I am not lonely. I am full. I am full of my projects. I am full of my books. I am full of my thoughts. I have a rich inner life that requires silence to flourish. Lesson 2: Peace is the ultimate currency. At this age, peace is the most valuable currency you have. It is worth more than money. It is worth more than excitement. It is worth more than validation. It is worth more than sex or having a +1 at a wedding. When you invite someone into your life, you are inviting in their chaos. You are inviting in their family drama, their health issues, their financial expectations, their neuroses, their sleep habits, their temperature preferences. When you are 30, you have the energy to process that chaos. You have the drive to build a life together, to compromise, to fight and make up. When you are 78, you do not. You have earned the right to a calm harbor. You have fought your wars. You have raised your kids. You have paid your taxes. I have a friend, George. He is 80. He got remarried last year to a woman 10 years younger. I see him at the hardware store. He looks tired. He looks gray. He tells me about the cruises he has to go on because she loves to travel. He tells me about the arguments over the thermostat. She likes it hot. He likes it cool. He tells me he misses his old dog that his new wife made him give away because she was allergic. He has a ring on his finger. He is not alone, but he has lost the sparkle in his eye. He traded his freedom for the appearance of companionship. He is a prisoner in a relationship he doesn't have the energy to leave. Lesson 3: The dignity of autonomy. There is a profound dignity in handling your own life. I wake up when I want. I eat what I want. If I want cereal for dinner, I have cereal. If I want to spend 3 days working on a complex birdhouse without speaking to a soul, I do it. I am not accountable to anyone's emotional state but my own. I don't have to manage anyone's mood. I don't have to apologize for being quiet. And yes, sometimes, on Christmas Eve, but when I see a couple holding hands in the park, but when I have a bad day and want to vent, I feel a momentary pang, a little twinge in the chest, but I let it pass. I acknowledge it and I let it go, because I know the cost of that hand-holding. I know the price of admission, and I am no longer willing to pay it. The invoice is too high. So to those of you reading this who are feeling the pressure, maybe you are divorced, maybe you are widowed, maybe you have always been single, and you have friends telling you to get back out there. You have children setting you up on blind dates. You have the culture screaming that you are sad and incomplete. I am giving you permission to stop. I am giving you permission to say, no, thank you. You are not a failure because you are alone. You are not incomplete. You are not a problem to be solved. If you find someone who fits into your peace without disrupting it, someone who loves your silence as much as you do, that is a miracle. Grab it, cherish it, but do not tear your life apart trying to fit a square peg into a round hole just because you are afraid of the quiet. The quiet is not your enemy. The quiet is where you finally meet yourself. The quiet is where God lives, if you believe in that sort of thing. And at 78, I have found that I am actually pretty good company. I tell good jokes. I make excellent coffee. And I never, ever complain about the thermostat. Don't let the fear of dying alone force you to live in a way that makes you wish you were dead.
Reclaim your space. Reclaim your time. Reclaim your money. And most importantly, reclaim your peace. It is the only thing we get to keep until the very end. Now, if you'll excuse me, the sun is coming up over the oak trees, and my coffee is ready. And I don't have to share it with anyone.